Sir, jelly donut, sir!
A jelly donut?
Sir, yes, sir!
How did it get here?
Sir, I took it from the mess hall, sir!
Your excuse.
Sir, excuse for what, sir?
I'm asking the fucking questions here, Private. You understand?
Sir, yes, sir!
Well, thank you very much. Can I be in charge for a while?
Sir, yes, sir!
Full Metal Jacket, 1987, by Stanley Kubrick is a cinematic masterpiece that transcends the boundaries of a conventional war film. The movie not only portrays the brutal reality of the Vietnam War, but also delves deeply into the process of dehumanization, turning individuals into killing machines through the relentless harshness of military training. With its tense training sequences, haunting battle scenes, and especially the outstanding performance of Ermey as Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, Full Metal Jacket has become an iconic symbol of the war film genre. However, few people know that behind those haunting frames lies a series of fascinating behind-the-scenes stories. From Ermey's creation of hundreds of razor-sharp insults to Kubrick's meticulous attention to detail and the incredible sacrifices and efforts of the filmmaking team. These elements are what contributed to the making of a timeless masterpiece. Let's explore 20 little-known facts about the production, meaning, and stories surrounding this legendary film. 1. Vincent D'Onofrio's sacrifice for the role. Vincent D'Onofrio is not only famous for his role as Private Pyle, but is also recognized for making one of the greatest sacrifices in cinematic history. To fully transform into a naive recruit who was mentally broken, D'Onofrio gained over 70 pounds, about 32 kilos, setting a record for the most weight gained for a role. This weight gain didn't just completely change his appearance, it also caused serious physical damage. During filming, he suffered a knee injury that required surgery, a steep price for art. But the toll wasn't just physical. Immersing himself too deeply in the role, shaving his head, and experiencing such a drastic change in appearance left D'Onofrio dealing with numerous psychological challenges in real life. Nevertheless, his performance as Private Pyle is one of the brightest highlights of Full Metal Jacket. From his innocent gaze at the beginning to the haunting smile in the final scene, D'Onofrio delivered a character that was both pitiful and terrifying. It's no surprise that this role turned him into a symbol of the horrors of war, although the price he paid was significant. 2. The tense script writing process. Don't think that creating a masterpiece like Full Metal Jacket was a smooth process. Stanley Kubrick, Michael Herr, and Gustav Hasford, the three brains behind the film, didn't actually work together. Instead, they wrote separately and pieced the parts together. Chaotic? Absolutely. And this inevitably led to unavoidable tensions. Hasford, the author of the original novel The Short Timers, and Herr, a renowned war journalist known for his work Dispatches, were both strong personalities, each wanting to leave their mark on the story. But Kubrick didn't care about anyone's ego. He only wanted a perfect script. Eventually, disputes arose over who deserved credit. Hasford wasn't even invited to the film's premiere. 3. Scenes cut for being too violent. Stanley Kubrick was known for pushing the boundaries of cinema, but even he had to step back from certain scenes because they were simply too horrifying. Among the scenes that were cut, the most notable were a football match played with a human head and a scene where Animal Mother beheads a Viet Cong sniper. Sounds more like a horror film than a war film, doesn't it? Kubrick didn't cut these scenes because he thought they were inappropriate. In fact, he believed they accurately reflected the brutality of war. However, at the time, Hollywood wasn't ready to confront such extreme violence. The production team even feared that these scenes would get the film banned in several countries. 4. The donut scene required 37 takes. In a film filled with intense scenes, you might not expect that a humorous moment involving a donut would cause nightmares on set. This was the scene where Gunnery Sergeant Hartman discovers a donut hidden in Private Pyle's locker and punishes the entire platoon with physical exercises. Ermey, who played Hartman, was known for his near-perfect performances, often nailing scenes in just a few takes. But with Stanley Kubrick, near perfect was never enough. The result? Kubrick demanded that this scene be reshot 37 times. Amazingly, Ermey had to yell all day while maintaining his anger and intensity in every shot. This scene not only demonstrates Kubrick's perfectionism, but also the extraordinary dedication of Ermey. 5. Kubrick initially wanted to make a film about World War II. If not for a chance change in direction, Full Metal Jacket might never have existed. After completing The Shining, 1980, Kubrick originally wanted to make a film about the Holocaust during World War II. He even began researching and developing ideas for this project. But everything changed when he read Michael Herr's Dispatches, a classic work on the Vietnam War. The book completely convinced Kubrick that the Vietnam War was a subject worthy of exploration. The only problem? Michael Herr took 3 years to agree to the project because he was exhausted from writing about war. This story highlights Kubrick's incredible persistence. Without his determination, we might have ended up with another World War II film instead of Full Metal Jacket. 6. The origin of the title, Full Metal Jacket. The title Full Metal Jacket sounds powerful and mysterious, but few people know it actually came from a gun catalogue. Kubrick stumbled upon the term during his research on war and was immediately drawn to its imagery and underlying meaning. Full Metal Jacket refers to a type of bullet with a metal casing designed to increase penetration and reduce barrel wear. For Kubrick, the term not only reflected the cold efficiency of war, but also symbolized the mental armor soldiers are forced to adopt, stripping away their humanity during military training. 7. Actors considered for the role of Joker. Matthew Modine became the face of Joker, a humorous yet deeply haunting war correspondent. However, the role wasn't always his. Initially, Anthony Michael Hall was cast, but withdrew due to a salary dispute. Val Kilmer, the star of Top Gun, was also considered, but ultimately didn't join the project. Interestingly, Modine landed the role thanks to a chance encounter with Val Kilmer. During their conversation, Modine saw an opportunity and actively approached Kubrick. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Denzel Washington even turned down other roles in the film because they were dissatisfied with Kubrick's famously meticulous casting process. Kubrick's final choice proved to be the right one. Modine brought a perfect balance of humour, sarcasm, and emotional depth to Joker. 8. The film is based on The Short-Timers. If you didn't know, Full Metal Jacket is an adaptation of the semi-autobiographical novel The Short-Timers by Gustav Hasford. This sharp and uncompromising book about the Vietnam War was based on Hasford's own experiences as a war correspondent. However, not all details from the book made it to the screen. For example, the book includes grisly scenes like rats being killed for food and references to cannibalism, subjects Kubrick deemed unnecessary to convey his message. Nonetheless, the book's core spirit, the dehumanization of individuals in war, remained intact. Interestingly, Hasford, who is rarely mentioned in discussions about the film, had a strained relationship with Kubrick. Their disagreements became so intense that Hasford once referred to Kubrick as a literary dictator. 9. Vietnam was built in England. Yes, if you thought the dense jungles and ruined towns in Full Metal Jacket were filmed in Vietnam, you'd be completely wrong. Everything was constructed in England. The reason? Kubrick had an extreme fear of flying and refused to leave the country. To recreate the Vietnamese battlefield, the production team imported 200 palm trees from California and 100,000 tropical plants from Hong Kong. They also used an abandoned area in London as the setting for the harrowing battle scenes, turning England, a cold, gloomy place, into the tropical battlefields of Vietnam was a rare cinematic feat. If you look closely, you might notice some details that don't match Vietnam, such as European-style architecture in certain scenes. But with Kubrick's talent and the production team's efforts, these discrepancies didn't detract from the film's impact. Instead, they only added to the audience's admiration for this legendary director. 10. Original script. Joker dies in the film. If you thought the ending of Full Metal Jacket was already haunting, imagine if the protagonist, Joker, had died on the battlefield in Vietnam. That was Kubrick's original plan. In the initial script, Joker was meant to die in battle, emphasizing the brutality of war and the inevitable fate of young soldiers. However, Matthew Modine convinced Kubrick to change this ending. He argued that Joker's survival would highlight the tragedy of war in a different way, the lingering pain of survivors and the irreversible changes to their souls. Kubrick, known for being stubborn about his decisions, surprisingly agreed with Modine. 11. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman's role wasn't originally meant for R. Lee Ermey. If you can't imagine anyone else but R. Lee Ermey in the role of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, you might be surprised to learn that he wasn't Stanley Kubrick's first choice. Originally, the role was given to Tim Colcary, but everything changed when Ermey, a real-life former Marine Corps drill instructor, submitted an audition tape unlike any other. In the video, Ermey stood in front of the camera, unleashing a torrent of razor-sharp insults at breakneck speed, without stammering or repeating himself. Kubrick was immediately impressed and decided to cast Ermey in the role. To ensure Ermey could handle the pressure, Kubrick tested him by throwing tennis balls and oranges at him while he delivered his lines. Ermey didn't flinch, solidifying his place in the film. This decision didn't just prove to be the right one, it changed the entire film. Ermey brought an authenticity to Hartman that made the character terrifyingly real. His performance became iconic, embodying the harshness and dehumanization inherent in military training. 12. R. Lee. Ermey and his 150 pages of insults. R. Lee. Ermey wasn't just an actor, he was a real-life Marine drill instructor, and that experience shone through in his portrayal of Hartman. To prepare for the role, Ermey wrote 150 pages of insults to use in the film. These weren't ordinary insults, but carefully crafted lines designed to psychologically break down the recruits. Lines like, "You climb obstacles like old people fuck," and "If God wanted you up there, he would have miracled your ass up there," are prime examples of Ermey's sharp wit. Surprisingly, nearly half of his dialogue in the film was improvised. Even Kubrick, famous for micromanaging every detail, gave Ermey free rein over his lines. The cast admitted that they genuinely felt crushed by Ermey's tirades, and this tension resulted in some of the most authentic performances in the film. Hartman wasn't just a character, he became a symbol of military ruthlessness, thanks to Ermey's talent and dedication. 13. Matthew Modine's fight to be present for his child's birth. Matthew Modine, who played Joker, faced an unexpected challenge during the filming of Full Metal Jacket, the birth of his child. However, for Stanley Kubrick, nothing was more important than the filming schedule. Kubrick initially refused to let Modine leave the set to be with his wife during her C-section. Feeling desperate, Modine threatened to injure himself if he wasn't allowed to leave, forcing Kubrick to relent. Modine was able to attend his child's birth, but Kubrick insisted he return to the set immediately afterward. Ironically, Modine didn't have any scenes to film for the next few days, which only added to his frustration with Kubrick's obsessive control. Modine later reflected that this experience made him feel like a real soldier, forced to fight for what mattered most to him. The film's release and its overwhelming success. When Full Metal Jacket was released in 1987, it quickly became a cultural phenomenon. With a budget of $16 to $30 million, the film grossed over $120 million worldwide, an impressive feat for a war movie that was anything but easy to watch. However, the film also sparked controversy. Many critics praised the first half, which depicted brutal military training, but found the second half, set on the Vietnam battlefield, less compelling. Nonetheless, this divide didn't diminish the film's impact. It is widely regarded as one of the greatest anti-war films of all time, and its influence continues to this day. 15. Matthew Modine's diary broke. Kubrick's secrecy. Stanley Kubrick was famously secretive about his filmmaking process. insisting on absolute privacy during production. But Matthew Modine, the film's lead actor, broke this tradition by keeping a detailed diary throughout the filming process. Modine's journal documented everything that happened on set, from the intense atmosphere to Kubrick's perfectionism. For example, Modine noted that Kubrick sometimes demanded dozens of takes for a scene, not because the performances were inadequate, but because small details like the lighting or the position of a leaf on the ground weren't perfect. In 2005, Modine published Full Metal Jacket Diary, which offered fans a rare glimpse into Kubrick's tightly controlled world. The book became a valuable resource for understanding the genius and challenges behind the making of the film. 16. The accidental appearance of the monolith. One of the most intriguing and mysterious details in Full Metal Jacket is the accidental appearance of a structure resembling the monolith from Kubrick's earlier masterpiece, 2001, A Space Odyssey. In the scene where Cowboy lies dying after being shot, a tall, rectangular, black building can be seen in the background. Its resemblance to the famous monolith immediately sparked speculation among Kubrick's fans. Was this a deliberate metaphor? Was Kubrick trying to connect the themes of human evolution in 2001 with the dehumanization in Full Metal Jacket? Or was it just an Easter egg? Kubrick later revealed that the structure's presence was purely coincidental. It was part of the set and had no symbolic meaning. However, fans continued to analyze and debate the significance of the monolith, proving that even unintentional details in Kubrick's films could inspire endless interpretation. 17. Foreshadowing. Private Pyle's breakdown. Private Pyle is one of the most unforgettable characters in Full Metal Jacket, and his mental breakdown is one of the film's most shocking moments. However, if you pay close attention, you'll notice that the film subtly foreshadows his collapse from the very beginning. Throughout the training scenes, Pyle becomes increasingly isolated from the other recruits. He is bullied, humiliated, and ultimately fixates on his rifle. One crucial detail is the scene where Pyle quietly collects ammunition, a seemingly harmless act that hints at the explosion of violence to come. The infamous scene of Pyle sitting in the bathroom, loading his rifle and smiling eerily, doesn't just mark a turning point for the character. It's a chilling reminder of the consequences of relentless cruelty in a dehumanizing military environment. 18. Details from the book omitted from the film. Although Full Metal Jacket is a faithful adaptation of Gustav Hasford's The Short-Timers, not every detail from the novel made it into the movie. One of the most notable omissions is Gunnery Sergeant Hartman's final words before being shot by Private Pyle. In the novel, just before Pyle kills him, Hartman says, "Pyle, I'm proud." This line adds complexity to Hartman's character, showing that despite his ruthlessness, he recognizes Pyle's progress. However, Kubrick chose to exclude this line to keep the focus entirely on Pyle's psychological collapse. The book also includes disturbing details like rats being killed for food and references to cannibalism, elements Kubrick felt were unnecessary for conveying his message. 19. Joker's real name is J.T. Davis. If you didn't catch this detail while watching the film, you're not alone. The real name of Joker, J.T. Davis, is briefly shown on his uniform during training. This small detail carries significant meaning. J.T. Davis is a tribute to James T. Davis, the first American soldier killed in the Vietnam War in 1961. By giving Joker this name, Kubrick not only honors Davis, but also underscores the senseless tragedy of war. Joker, like Davis, represents countless young soldiers whose lives were irrevocably altered or destroyed by violence. 20. Kubrick's daughter and her contribution. An interesting yet little-known fact is that Vivian Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick's daughter, played a significant role in the success of Full Metal Jacket. Under the pseudonym Abigail Mead, Vivian composed the film's haunting and tension-filled score, perfectly complementing its themes. Vivian also filmed 18 hours of behind-the-scenes footage during the production of Full Metal Jacket. However, this footage has never been released, leaving fans curious about what took place on set. Full Metal Jacket is not just a war film, it's a haunting and profound work of art. With its surprising behind-the-scenes stories and little-known facts, the film stands as both a cinematic classic and a testament to the sacrifices, talent, and perfectionism involved in filmmaking. If you enjoy inspiring stories like these about cinema, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating content. What fact about Full Metal Jacket surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for reading, and see you in the next video.